please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
I think they've very clearly said that that they don't need to do this anymore because their global, positioning always has to have control positions, and so I don't think that theory is going to play out.
India and China, this is the growth prospect and the huge market. You've got incredible choices.
No, that will come during the week. We have not yet finalized its assessment. It is happening. It will happen during the week.
Higher than our expectations, and that is a significant hardening on a month-on-month basis. 3.19% would compare with 2.47% in March. Now down close to about 30 points in the Nifty. The Sensex is down close to about 75 points. The midcaps continue with their underperformance.
You'll have to say that the bears would be feeling that they sort of on this day because the mid-caps, that's one area where you're seeing 250-point decline on the index and advanced decline of 1:3.
Tepid start to the trading week as investors play safe ahead of the Karnataka election results tomorrow. Nifty and Sensex in absolutely flat, mid-caps underperform.
And Hindustan Unilever beats estimates on all parameters in its fourth quarter. The domestic volumes report 11% growth against expectations of a 6 to 8% growth. The HUL management claims that rural growth is back.
Shares of oil marketing companies surged in trade after the petrol and diesel prices were hiked. Pharma stocks also perked up after US President Donald Trump did not announce any direct government intervention in drug price negotiations.
And wholesale price inflation accelerates sharply to over 3% thanks to higher food and fuel prices. Bond yields surge as NBFC's stocks tumble in trade.
Sun TV shines in trade after a robust fourth quarter. On the other hand, Tata Global Beverages slips after a tepid Q4 print. Emphasis ends with marginal losses after its promoter Blackstone sold 8% stake. Well, those were the top 5 headlines from the day's trading action. Hello and welcome to Markets Today Talkback, the show where we tell you all about the 8 hours of trading in just 5 headlines. I'm Lata Venkatesh, with me, Nigel D'Souza. Hi, Nigel.
Thanks for that, Lata. Well, over the next 30 minutes, we will discuss the top 5 market headlines and our experts will answer your stock queries. Joining us today to answer all your stock queries are market expert Prakash Diwan and technical expert Ashwini Gujral. Thanks so much for joining on the show, gentlemen. But before we come to you, let's take a relook on how the markets fared in today's trading session. Lata.
Well, first up, it's absolutely been flat as flat can get. So it does look like there is a fear of heights. But on second thoughts, maybe you want to say it's actually a flight to quality or flight to safety, because the mid-caps have seriously underperformed, indicating that there is definitely, even if there is resistance in the Nifty, there is a movement away from mid-cap. Look at the mid-cap weakness. See, it's 1.2% fall today. It is 5% for the month of May. But look at the year-to-date number. It is an 8%, 8.79% loss for the year. But now is the other part. Look at the year-on-year performance of the mid-cap index. Year-on-year, this index is up. No, it's not down 5%. Year-on-year, it is up 5%. But if you remember, when we were looking at the 2017 end, December 31st, the mid-cap index was up 40%.
Right.
So now if you're drawing mid-year, May to May, it's actually up only 5%. That's a measure of the underperformance of the mid-cap index. And today, there were several pockets because of inflation. There was an NBFC weakness, PSU bank weakness, all because of this CBI news, as well as bad results and this Dena Bank going into prompt corrective action. So, there were so many pockets for you. Generally, anybody who had a lot of debt was in trouble. So, leveraged stocks, power stocks, all of them saw weakness. And I think the relief was only in pharma and oil stocks. Pharma because of, as we said, Donald Trump, and refinery stocks, again, because those two companies, the petrol and diesel prices were raised by a few pies. But otherwise, it generally does look like the market is having trouble climbing this wall of worry.
That's right, Lata. Towards the end of the day, at least, we got some good news coming in from Hindustan Unilever. Dabur came out with a good set of numbers. Nestle came out with a good set of numbers. Jubilant and Hindustan Unilever, good set of numbers out there. But a couple of stocks that came out good set of numbers, they came in for profit booking today. Titan. That one, in fact, did see a cut of around 2.5% odd. You had Z Entertainment as well that was under some pressure in trade. And Tata Motors as well had a down day in today's trade. But there are a couple of other stocks that did well. You had NTPC that popped up. BPCL, as Lata told us early this morning itself, keep an eye out on some of these OMCs. That one jumped up in trade. And Dr. Reddy's as well did see a bit of a relief rally. But otherwise, if you've come out with a good set of numbers, the market is rewarding you. Sun TV, ad revenue growth was good. You had subscription growth as well. That was good. Relaxo Footwear did come out with a good set. And even a couple of other stocks like that, Graphite India and HEG, they've had a big run, but the numbers are good. And today the markets rewarded them. Both those two stocks were higher. But otherwise, you got the stock wrong. Plenty of casualties in today's trading session. 3 stocks were declining for every 1 stock that was advancing. So the breadth of the market actually was dismal. Tata Global Beverages, you thought that, in fact, the bad news is factored in. The stock ended down more than 10%.
Oh, absolutely. We'll discuss all these stocks with our guests. But first, an overall question to both our guests. Ashwini, first to you. 10,800 looking like a resistance level for the Nifty. But what's your sense tomorrow? Do you think the market will want to look at the election results and take a call? Or is there a trade even before that, a plunge that you can take?
See, before the event, it's a bet. It's not a trade. After the event, what will happen is that you'll probably get a gap down or a gap up, depending on the way the event is. And, other than a 2-day impact, I don't think this election is going to change your monetary policy or economics or anything of that sort. If you get 10,400, 500, you try to buy into the market. If you get 11,000 by any chance, look to sell into the market, because these sort of extreme outcomes will create a trading opportunity. If it's as expected, then, the market will react probably 50 points up and down.
Okay, all right, Prakash, let's get you as well into this discussion. Well, we did see quite a big move last week, 200 points on the Nifty, but how are you viewing this event?
Yeah, so, from a longer term perspective, it really doesn't alter anything except that...
a Congress win, will it be seen as bad? Because,
It just raises question on the BJP's ability to come back in 2019 decisively. But then there's a lot of time that you have between tomorrow and 2019. So, and that would mean that they would have enough time to make improvements, room for growth, whatever. But my sense is largely what is working in the market today, those pockets like, if you say consumption, if you look at IT, is that going to change because there's a Congress government sitting in Karnataka or a BJP coalition or whatever? It doesn't really matter. So I think the market is just waiting for this event to be done and get over with, so that you move to the next stage.
Okay.
And I think the global cues are far more compelling than anything domestic right now.
Well, actually, I want to come to you seminally after the second headline of ours and to ask you whether that will change the trend of the market. And the second headline is Hindustan Unilever beats estimates on all parameters in the fourth quarter. Domestic volumes report an 11% growth against expectations of just 6 to 8%. HUL management claims that rural growth is back. First, Mangalam Malu on the details of the numbers, and then we are coming with questions for our guests.
Well, Hindustan Unilever earlier had a product called Surf Excel. It does have a product called Surf Excel. Earlier ran with a tagline, Do Dala. And that's exactly the word that I will use for these results on the fourth quarter, because volume growth of 11%, no one on the street was expecting. Poll was anywhere between 6 to 8%. And strong volume growth with strong profitable growth, because margins at 22.5% to above expectations of 21.3%. And the company posted a net profit of 1,351 crores, marginally higher than our expectations of 1,337 crores. But mind you, there was an exceptional loss of 64 crores. So if you adjust for that, the net profit has come in higher by to around that 1,400 crore mark is what I'm looking at. Our margins have expanded because the company has rationalized its costs. They've spent more on ads, so they haven't pulled back on advertisement expenses as well. Ad expenses have actually grown by 25%. So home care as well as personal care, the two biggest segments, which is also the mainstay of the company's earnings and revenue, have grown in double digits, gained market share as well as gained margins as well. With that, it's a complete washout as far as HUL numbers are concerned. The stock is at a record high ahead of an event tomorrow. Let's see how it pans out in trade. But as far as these numbers are concerned, no questions about the spotless nature, no dag on these numbers.
All right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. Well, we have Abhishek who sent us a question on HUL. He wants to invest around 60,000 rupees into the stock. He wants to know when is the right time. Prakash, coming across to you, at 400 rupees, when I joined CNBC TV18, at that point of time, at 600 rupees, people are saying it's done its course. It's at around 1,500 rupees now. I remember they came out with an offer as well at that point of time at around 600 rupees. That buyback, and there was a big debate whether or not you should participate. Clearly, the ones that didn't participate, they're happy around 1,500. But your sense of these numbers, the consumption theme is looking quite strong.
Yeah, so, my answer to that would be slightly more, I'll move from macro to the micro level. One is, do you expect rural consumption to reverse? And the answer is really no. It's just started picking up. You throw in a good monsoon, you throw in the government's focus on spending in rural markets. Election years usually support that kind of spending and at least the propensity to spend. With all of that, and given the fact that HUL has learned from its pitfalls and past mistakes in terms of changing the product mix, why should that be reversed? So the answer to it, please buy HUL. And this whole thing of 600 was a great time to give in. It happens when these giants start rumbling. They sleep for a long time, and when they start moving, this happened to Reliance also. Reliance also had a buyback at 740. And then it's actually 2,000 from there. So this is exactly what some secular moves can do to a lot of these big names. I think liver is in a different orbit now. There's no stopping its growth, but don't expect this 1,000 to 1,500 kind of a move that you've had in the last 6 months to be replicated. Don't extrapolate that. Buy it on dips if you want to, but definitely have this in your portfolio.
Okay. Now, I was going to ask you whether it will change the mood of the market itself.
It would,
but because 10,800 does it? I mean,
it has the weightage. It has the weightage. Yeah. Today, anyways, it was looking up. It has gone into numbers on a positive note. So there's no reversal of mood of sorts just because of a lever at least. But people will see tomorrow morning. People will forget about all numbers, results, and that microcosm of a focus will go on only onto the outcome of the counting.
Okay. All right. Let's get straight then to the third headline today. Oil marketing company stocks, they rose in trade. This comes after petrol and diesel prices were hiked after 19 days gap. Both HPCL and BPCL ended the day in the green. However, IOC was an exception. That stock ended in the red. Meanwhile, pharma stocks as well had a good day in trade after President Trump failed to announce any direct government intervention in drug prices negotiations. He said that it would take years to restructure the existing system to see changes in drug prices. Let's listen in.
We will have tougher negotiation, more competition, and much lower prices at the pharmacy counter, and it'll start to take effect very soon.
Okay, and on that note, a question from one of our viewers. Nagesh Burugu is calling us from Hyderabad. Has a question on Aurobindo Pharma. Nagesh ji, go ahead. What is your question?
Yeah, I am interested in buying Aurobindo Pharma for long term, around more than 5 to hold for more than 5 years. And anyway, the year high is 800, now it is 600. Can I enter at this level?
Okay, Prakash, straight to you.
Since I'm assuming that his horizon is long term.
He said 5 years.
Yeah, so which is a comfort, and given the fact that Aurobindo has a very approvals that could come through in the next year and a half. In fact, they would start reaping the benefits, and they've not been having such a difficult time with some of their competitive products as well. And given the environment in the US, which we just heard Donald Trump talk about, I think Indian companies could probably end up benefiting with generics. So Auro Pharma is definitely up there, and it's valued reasonably. There's no stretch here, so definitely you could go ahead and buy.
Okay, Mr. Nagesh Burugu, you can go ahead and buy Aurobindo. If your vision is 5 years, then you can make money. That's the word from our expert. Well, we also spoke about oil marketing companies, so let me take that question to Ashwini. Ashwini, you think, I mean, this rally, OMCs actually rose even when crude prices were rising. And now, of course, they've moved down from 72 to 78 to $76. And the prices, product prices have risen. Do you think this rally can go further?
See, this is a pullback rally because the trend has been so strong. They've come off 30-40%. Anything that does that can easily go up, 5 to 8%. So a lot of short covering move is there, but I don't think oil prices have come off or rupee has come off to warrant this sort of a move.
Okay, then time for a break now. But before we go, we leave you with some market opinion we got from Kotak Mahindra AMC's Nilesh Shah on the sectors he expects will do well in the coming months. Stay with us.
I think if you're taking just a 12-month view, then probably agriculture, rural and infra, these are the themes where there could be market outperformance. Clearly ahead of election, there will be a huge focus on infrastructure development. The agriculture and rural sector, courtesy good monsoon and also ahead of election, will receive bountiful of support. And combination of that should create outperformance for these three sectors.
Ashwini Gujral as well as Prakash Sivan, they're with us to answer all your stock questions. But let's get straight to the fourth headline today. The April wholesale price inflation accelerated to more than 3%, driven by a surge in fuel prices as well as in food price inflation. This saw a rise in bond yields, resulting in NBFC stocks sliding in trade. Lata, what do you make of this data point?
Well, the market has made much of it. That's why I'm worried. The wholesale price index has a tendency to exaggerate things. When it rises, when prices are on the up move, it rises more sharply than CPI. When prices are falling, it can go into negative more easily. But that said, food prices have been a little higher, especially potatoes and vegetables, indicated an accentuation, and so did fuel. CPI, which the RBI watches, will people watch more for the non-food, non-fuel component, the core inflation, which also is a spot of bother for inflation watchers. Regardless, look at the way the 10-year bond has risen. It went all the way to 7.8%. So that is a bit of a worry. 7.77 was a better part of the average for the day, but towards close, 7.8% on that bond, as you can see. And that is what worried the market, because then NBFCs have to borrow at some 50 basis points above the government sovereign paper. So what about the loans that they had given last year when they were borrowing from the market at probably 7%? They must have given those loans at 8%. When they come for reset, they will be reset at 9 or 9.5. Will those people be able to pay? Right. And will they be able to pass on this higher yields as well? Those are worries. Now, actually, the market is now looking at mid-caps with skepticism. So every worry can be blown out of proportion. And perhaps that's what got done today. But 7.8 is something markets will genuinely worry about. It's not a yield to be scoffed at. That's what the government is paying. So individuals will have to pay much, much more. We have a questioner? Yeah, we have a question coming from Sangram Keshari. In fact, he's calling from Bengaluru with a question on Aditya Birla Capital. Hi, how can we help you?
Very good evening to all of you. Sir, I'm holding Aditya Birla Capital since its listing, and I averaged also. Its quantity is almost 150 and the average price is almost 200. And I want to keep it for next 5 to 10 years also. So I want your opinion, sir.
Okay, no worries in terms of the holding time horizon. So that's good news, at least. Sitting on a bit of a loss as we speak. Prakash, coming across to you on this one. What would your advice be? 5 to 10 years. Time horizon is fine. Making a small loss, hang in there.
Yeah, it's 20% off from his buying price or whatever the weighted average 20%. He mentioned. So I think what has happened in this case is it got listed at a time when there was a lot of euphoria around NBFCs. Correct. Yeah. And anything and everything that was into housing finance and lending and everything was just flying. But not to take away the fact that AB Capital has a very strong pedigree. It has a great mix of business into this stock. Okay, I mean, you have some of the most promising businesses in this particular stock itself for the group as a whole. Now, as Lata alluded to this fact that the yields have hardened. Now, in this environment, companies that are going out to the market and acquiring customers, usually you don't have the best of customers as choice, because you are initiating newer relationships, whereas the existing banks and players tend to keep on finding better loans and better borrowers amongst the existing network of relationships. So that is one reason where the top line growth could be slightly subdued. But Aditya Birla has much more than just lending to, you know, SMEs and corporates. So if you see the kind of business profile, I think if he's willing to wait for 4 or 5 years, Mr. Sangram can actually be rest assured that he will get a decent price. I am not recommending averaging out because I don't know whether that's within his plan in terms of the portfolio construct. But at 140, 145, I really wouldn't get worried about Aditya Birla Capital in such a short run.
Okay, so there you are, Mr. Sangram. Stay put if your horizon is as long as that. And with that, we come to the last and the final headline of the day. Sun TV shines in trade after posting a buoyant fourth quarter with ad revenue growing at 26%. The stock rose more than 10% today. On the other hand, an uninspiring quarter weighed down Tata Global Beverages. The stock slumped almost 11%. Another stock ended in the red was Emphasis. The company saw a big block deal this morning as promoter Blackstone sold 8% stake at 960 rupees per share.
Let's listen in to Nitin Rakesh, the ED and CEO of Emphasis.
The idea was to create more liquidity in the stock and, you know, still continue to retain a controlling position. And from that perspective, I think nothing much changes from my point of view and the management's point of view. You know, I think they've very clearly said that that they don't intend to sell anymore because their global, you know, positioning always has to have control positions, and so I don't think that theory is going to play out.
Well, let me go straight to Ashwini then. Sun TV, in fact, you said it's a 10% stock today and it has already risen that much. Should people climb or should they take profit on the stock?
See, it had corrected to the 200-day moving average. And whenever you have such a strong move from the 200-day moving average, generally it's supported by institutions and fresh buying. So my sense is you could easily do $100 from here. Again, it's a kind of an election stock, so closer to the election, again you'll see volatility even here. But for the moment, it's a buy, and a buy for probably a few months.
Well, thank you very much for that advice, Ashwini and Prakash. Thank you very much for joining us. So with that, we wrap up this edition of Markets Today Talk Back. Thank you very much for watching.
Markets Today, brought to you by SIS, a market leader in security, cash logistics and facility management. MagicBricks.com and TataAIG.com. Think ahead.
Gabon is on the fast track to becoming the most favorable investment destination in Africa. The NCOC Special Economic Zone has opened its doors to international investors, providing major tax benefits like 0% tax on dividends, 0% tax on income for the first 10 years, 100% exemptions on corporate and capital gains tax, 100% foreign ownership, and more. Come, invest in the manufacturing sector in Gabon.
Technology has a very inbuilt mechanism to offer the answers.
Policymakers in India Inc. converge to script the future of IT in India. In BIS presents The Digital Code at these times on CNBC TV18.
Presented by Bureau of Indian Standards.
What does it take to have a lifelong relationship? With SMC, just one transaction gives you a lifetime relationship. SMC. Money wise, be wise. The leaders always talk to the leader in business news.
Would you be okay with being bought out?
We're not looking at selling off to a competitor or to anybody else.
Walmart and Flipkart are all set to sign a definitive agreement. My understanding is it could happen any day now.
CNBC TV18 has been reporting Walmart and Flipkart have signed a definitive agreement. As per that agreement, Walmart will buy 77% stake in Flipkart at $16 billion.
When news breaks, it breaks first on CNBC TV18. CNBC TV18. Follow the leader. This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC TV18.
Brought to you by